friends, it's Jasmine, your Vancouver, Washington Realtor extraordinaire. If you're planning a move to Clark County or anywhere across the Portland Metro, I'd love to be your guide. I work with buyers, sellers, and relocation clients from all over the country, and I'm here to help you find the right home in the right neighborhood with total confidence. Whether you're just starting your search or ready to hit the ground running, feel free to call, text, or email me, or fill out my buyer questionnaire linked down below so we can get started together. Today, we're diving into a topic that's been on a lot of my clients' minds, especially folks moving here from out of state or commuting across the Columbia River. I've had several buyers ask me lately, is the I-5 bridge between Vancouver and Portland gonna be tolled? And the answer is, it's complicated. Because while there's no toll yet, plans are moving forward to toll this major route, and it could have a big impact on your commute, your monthly budget, and even your home search strategy depending on where you plan to live and work. In this video, I'm breaking it all down for you. We'll talk about the current status of the I-5 tolling proposal, why it's happening, what the potential costs could be, when tolling is expected to begin, and what it means for you as a home buyer or future homeowner in Clark County. Whether you plan to commute into Portland, stay entirely within Washington, or work remotely but want to understand how infrastructure projects could affect property values in the long term, this is info you'll want to know. So if you've ever wondered, will I have to pay to drive over the bridge? Or how will this impact my housing budget? Or even, should I be avoiding I-5 altogether when choosing a neighborhood? This video is for you. And if you're getting serious about your move and want to make sure you're factoring all the local details, I'd love to help. Call me, text me, email me, or head to the buyer questionnaire link below, and let's find the right home in the right location with full clarity on what's ahead. Let's dive in. Let's start with where things stand right now. As of today, there is no toll on the Interstate 5 bridge that connects Vancouver, Washington to Portland, Oregon. You can drive across the Columbia River via the I-5 without paying anything, and that's been the case for decades. But that's likely going to change. There is a major infrastructure project underway called the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program, or IBR for short, and tolling is expected to be a key piece of how the states of Washington and Oregon plan to fund it. This bridge is over 100 years old, yes really, and it's one of the last remaining lift-span highway bridges on the entire I-5 corridor. It's functionally obsolete, not earthquake safe, and it causes major traffic bottlenecks during peak hours. So both states, along with federal agencies, have committed to replacing it. The estimated cost is somewhere between $5 billion and $7.5 billion, depending on the final design, inflation, and construction timelines. Washington and Oregon have already pledged about $1 billion each in state funding, and the program has secured over $2 billion in federal grants so far, but that still leaves a significant gap. That's where tolling comes in. Originally, tolling was expected to begin in 2025 to start generating revenue early, but that timeline has been delayed. Based on recent reports from the Washington State Transportation Commission and the IBR program team, tolling will not begin before the summer of 2027. That means if you're buying a home now or planning to relocate within the next year or two, you won't be paying a toll right away. But if you plan to live in the area long term, or if your job requires you to commute across state lines regularly, you'll want to factor tolling into your future transportation costs. Now, the exact toll rates haven't been finalized yet, but current draft scenarios suggest a range between $1.55 and $4.70 for a one-way trip, depending on the time of day and whether you have a good-to-go pass or use pay-by-plate. Peak hour rates will likely be higher, and there's talk of annual rate increases between 2 and 3%. Some experts have even raised concerns that if funding shortfalls continue or if construction costs rise, tolls could reach much higher levels, in extreme cases, up to $20 during peak congestion periods. That's not official by any means, but it gives you a sense of how much this could evolve. For now though, the key takeaway is this. Tolling on the I-5 bridge is not in place yet, but it is absolutely coming. If you're planning to live in Clark County and work in Oregon, or vice versa, this will likely become part of your commute starting in 2027 or soon after. Even if you don't drive across the bridge regularly, this kind of regional infrastructure project can impact traffic patterns, home values, and buyer demand, especially in neighborhoods near the I-5. That's why I always keep tabs on this kind of development for my clients, so you can make smart, well-informed choices when it comes to location, budget, and long-term investment. So why are Washington and Oregon planning to toll the I-5 bridge in the first place? It's not just a random fee, it's actually part of a massive, long overdue infrastructure overhaul that's been in the works for years. And it's one of the most complex, high-stakes projects in our region. The bridge that currently connects Vancouver and Portland via I-5 is officially known as the Interstate Bridge. What many people don't realize is that this bridge is over 100 years old. The northbound span opened in 1917, and the southbound span was added in 1958. It wasn't designed for the volume of traffic we see today, and it doesn't meet modern safety or seismic standards. It also has a lift span, meaning cars and trucks sometimes have to stop while the bridge rises for river traffic, which creates bottlenecks and reliability issues that ripple up and down the I-5 corridor. Because of all of this, the bridge is considered functionally obsolete and structurally outdated. Engineers and transportation officials have raised serious concerns about what could happen in the event of a major earthquake or natural disaster. And on top of that, the narrow lanes and lack of full shoulders makes it dangerous and inefficient for both drivers and freight. This is a critical stretch of highway, one of the only points where two major West Coast cities are linked, and yet it's one of the weakest links in the entire I-5 system. So the states of Washington and Oregon, along with federal transportation agencies, have partnered to launch the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program, or IBR program for short. This program isn't just about swapping out a bridge. It's a full-scale modernization project that includes building a new, earthquake-resilient bridge, improving freeway interchanges on both sides of the river, enhancing safety for pedestrians and cyclists, and integrating high-capacity transit options like light rail or bus rapid transit. The total cost? Somewhere between $5 billion and $7.5 billion, depending on the final design, construction costs, and inflation. That's a massive investment, and while federal grants and state funds are covering part of the bill, there's still a significant funding gap. That's where tolling comes in. The idea is that tolls will help fund both the construction and ongoing maintenance of the new bridge, creating a dedicated revenue stream without putting the entire financial burden on taxpayers. In many ways, tolling is a practical solution. It's being used in other parts of the country to fund large infrastructure projects, and it allows people who use the bridge most frequently to contribute to its upkeep. It also opens the door for lower interest financing tools, since revenue from tolls can be used to back bonds or loans needed for the project. But tolling isn't just about money, it's also being seen as a traffic management strategy. By charging more during peak commute times and less during off-peak hours, the toll system could help reduce congestion and encourage some drivers to shift their schedules or consider transit. This kind of variable rate tolling is already in use in parts of I-405 in Washington and on several bridges in California. It's not without controversy, but it's one of the tools planners use to maximize traffic flow and make their infrastructure more sustainable over time. For home buyers, especially those relocating to the Vancouver area, this matters more than you might think. Infrastructure changes like this don't just affect traffic, they can change how neighborhoods grow, where people choose to live, and what commuting looks like 5 to 10 years from now. Whether you're planning to cross the bridge every day for work, or you're hoping to avoid it altogether, understanding why tolling is happening helps you make smarter choices about location, lifestyle, and long-term investment. Now that you know why tolling is happening, let's dive into the numbers, because this is the part that affects your budget, your commute, and the strategy behind where you might want to buy a home. First, as of today, no tolls are being collected on the I-5 bridge between Vancouver and Portland. You can cross freely, and that will likely remain the case until at least mid to late 2027. Originally, tolling was supposed to begin in 2025, but it's been delayed due to environmental review, bridge design updates, and the coordination between state and federal agencies. Officials now say that tolling won't begin before summer 2027, and that's assuming there are no additional delays with funding or approval. So what will the toll actually cost once it's in place? Right now, early modeling scenarios suggest that one-way tolls could range from $155 to $470, depending on a few key factors. One of the biggest influences will be whether drivers use a good-to-go pass. That's Washington's electronic tolling system, or pay-by-mail, which typically costs more. There's also the time of day factor. Tolls are expected to be higher during peak commute hours and lower at night or during off-peak times. This structure is meant to help manage traffic by encouraging people to shift their schedules or carpool if they can. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. The Washington State Transportation Commission has proposed an annual toll escalation of around 3.25%, especially in the second and third years after tolling begins. That means if tolls start at $470, you might be looking at closer to $5 or more within just a few years. These increases are being discussed to account for inflation, rising construction and maintenance costs, and the long-term financial stability of the project. It's a bit like interest on a loan. The numbers may seem small at first, but over time, they do add up. And for buyers who plan to commute 5 days a week, it could mean an extra $100 to $200 per month in transportation expenses once the toll is fully in effect. There's also been a lot of conversation around equity. A proposed low-income toll program is in development that would offer a 50% discount for qualifying households, but the rollout of that program is still being figured out. It's a great concept, especially for people who rely on the bridge but may already be cost burdened. But as of now, it's unclear whether that discount will be ready when tolling first begins. Officials are still working on the logistics for how to verify income, protect user privacy, and implement the program across 2 states. And just to be transparent, there are some worst case scenarios floating around too. A few economic watchdogs and transportation policy critics have warned that if toll revenue projections fall short, or if construction costs spiral out of control, we could eventually see tolls climb even higher. In fact, one report floated the possibility of tolls reaching $10 to $20 during peak hours if contingency plans have to kick in. Now, this isn't likely, it's not the official plan, but the mere fact that these discussions are happening shows how dynamic and unpredictable a project of this scale can be. So the bottom line is this: while tolls are not active yet, they're coming. They're expected to start around 2027. You can expect to pay somewhere in the $2 to $5 range for a one-way trip across the bridge at first, with annual increases likely, and discounts potentially available for low-income drivers. And if you plan to live in Vancouver and work in Portland, or vice versa, this should absolutely factor into your commute planning, neighborhood preferences, and long-term cost of living estimates. Even if you won't cross the bridge daily, tolling can still shape traffic patterns, buyer behavior, and regional growth, all of which can influence your real estate investment over time. Let's talk about what this actually means for you as a home buyer. Whether you're moving here from out of state or just trying to decide between different neighborhoods around Clark County, the I-5 tolling plan isn't just a transportation issue, it's a real estate issue. The moment tolls become a part of the daily commute, they start influencing everything from housing demand to buyer psychology to long-term appreciation. And as your Vancouver, Washington Realtor extraordinaire, it's my job to make sure you understand how that could affect your move. First, if you're planning to live in Vancouver, Ridgefield, Salmon Creek, or Hazeldale, and you'll be commuting across the Columbia River into Portland for work, then tolling becomes a direct cost of living factor. Even a modest toll of $4.70 each way adds up to nearly $200 per month if you're crossing that bridge daily. That's not insignificant, especially when you factor in gas, insurance, and general commute time. For some buyers, that monthly expense could shift how much house they feel comfortable affording, or it might push them to prioritize neighborhoods with easier access to local employment centers on the Washington side. On the flip side, for remote workers or buyers whose jobs are based entirely in Clark County, the toll might not affect their day-to-day lives at all. In fact, once tolling kicks in, we may see more Portland-based buyers looking to relocate to Washington to avoid the cost and hassle of commuting across the river. That could create increased demand, especially in Vancouver, Camas, and East Side communities like Orchards and Fisher's Landing, which could drive prices up in those areas. It's all about supply, demand, and perceived convenience. If fewer people want to live in Portland and pay tolls to work in Vancouver or vice versa, that shift gets reflected in where buyers focus their search. It also means that neighborhoods near but not directly reliant on I-5 could gain popularity. Areas like Philida, Minnehaha, East Vancouver, and parts of Battleground offer more flexibility for local commutes and could become more desirable as people look to stay on one side of the river. And if you're looking at Camas or Washougal, where schools and community amenities are already major selling points, the addition of tolling could further reinforce their appeal, especially for buyers who don't need to cross into Oregon often and want to keep their daily routine within Washington's borders. Another key point here is that infrastructure changes like tolling can impact resale value down the line. If you're buying a new home now and planning to hold it for 5 to 10 years, think ahead to how the tolling system could shift buyer demand in the future. Will buyers in 2030 still want to live in that neighborhood if it means paying extra to get to work every day? Or will they favor locations with more self-contained amenities, better transit options, or closer proximity to employers in Clark County? These are the kinds of questions I help my clients think through, especially my relocation buyers who are trying to understand the area without living here yet. At the end of the day, my goal isn't to scare anyone off from crossing the bridge. It's to empower you with real information so you can make confident, future-proof decisions. The introduction of tolling doesn't mean Vancouver or Clark County becomes less desirable. It just means you need to be more strategic. If you're going to be crossing that bridge daily, we may want to look for homes closer to the freeway on-ramp, near park and ride options, or in neighborhoods where commuting alternatives like express buses or carpool lanes are accessible. If you're staying local, we can broaden your search and focus on lifestyle, walkability, and long-term equity. This is what I do. I help clients connect the dots between real estate and regional development. Tolling isn't just one piece of the puzzle, but it's one of those rare cases where housing and infrastructure collide in a real way. And if you're planning a move to Vancouver, Ridgefield, Camas, or anywhere in the Portland Metro, I'd love to help you navigate it all with clarity and strategy. Let's fast forward just a little, because while tolling on the I-5 bridge isn't here yet, the plans are very real. And for a lot of my clients, that's enough to start asking smart questions now. Should we buy closer to work in case tolls do hit? Or would it make sense to stay on the Washington side if we're not sure what commuting costs will look like later? These are exactly the kinds of conversations we're starting to have, not from a place of panic, but from a place of preparation. For example, I recently worked with a couple relocating from the Bay Area. One spouse will be remote long-term, but the other has a job opportunity in downtown Portland. They fell in love with Ridgefield, the new builds, the space, the lifestyle, but when we started talking about future costs, they brought up the toll. If that's really coming in a couple years, they said, maybe we should live closer to the bridge so the commute's quicker and more affordable. Even though they wouldn't be paying anything right now, they wanted to plan ahead. So we looked at neighborhoods in central Vancouver that offered a great lifestyle and more flexibility if tolling kicks in down the road. Then there are clients who don't expect to cross the bridge at all, people working in Vancouver, Camas, or even fully remote. For them, tolling probably won't change their daily life, but it still plays into the bigger picture. If tolling does push more Portlanders to buy on the Washington side, and we're already starting to see early signs of that, neighborhoods like East Vancouver, Philida, or even Brush Prairie could get even hotter in the next coming years. That's great news if you're thinking about appreciation or long-term resale value. So even if it doesn't touch your commute, it could still shape the demand around the home you buy. I've also had some first-time buyers and investors ask about how tolling might change traffic patterns or shift which areas become more desirable. And the truth is, we don't know exactly how it'll play out yet. But if you're the kind of buyer who likes to plan ahead, or if you're thinking of your home as a long-term investment, it's worth having on your radar now. This isn't about making fear-based decisions. It's about being proactive, informed, and ready to pivot if needed. And that's the beauty of working with someone who lives and breathes this market. I'm not just here to unlock doors and write offers. I'm here to walk you through these bigger conversations, keep you ahead of the curve, and make sure your home fits your life today and your goals for tomorrow. All right, friends, so here's the big takeaway. Tolling on the I-5 bridge isn't here yet, but it is coming. And while there's still a lot up in the air, the exact start date, what the tolls will cost, who might qualify for discounts, it's far enough along that it's worth keeping on your radar, especially if you're planning a move to Vancouver or anywhere in Clark County. Things like this might not seem like a big deal now, but they can absolutely shape commute patterns, influence buyer demand, and even impact the long-term value of a home. That's why I always keep an eye on projects like this for my clients, because it's not just about picking a pretty house. It's about understanding the bigger picture so you can move forward with confidence. And that's what I'm here for. Whether you're just starting to explore the area, trying to figure out the best commute, or ready to dive into house hunting, I'd love to help you navigate it all. Feel free to call me, text me, or send me an email, whatever works for you. Or if you'd like to get the ball rolling right now, just fill out my buyer questionnaire link down below and I'll personally reach out. And hey, before you click away, what do you think about the idea of tolling the I-5 bridge? Would it change how often you cross into Oregon? Would it impact where you decide to live? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!